In this presentation, we will be having a look at how to prepare financial statements in MyEasyFs Financials. We'll first have a look at some of the key features available in the software, and then we will move on to the software and see how it is applied within the software. Preparing financial statements in MyEasyFs is made simple due to the following: having quick and easy access to classification groups and the trial balance for each entity based on each of the 10 classification groups at the entity and consolidated level of the trial balance group totals and cash flow group totals for each period, and the detailed entity account totals of the trial balance and cash flow for each period. The ability to use word fields for common information in MyEasyFs Financials and the MS Word documents. Having dynamic titles that change based on results of the financial data on the selected row, that is based on if the row contains positive data, negative data, or if it contains both positive and negative data. Having dynamic node numbers to maintain consistency and accuracy of referencing in MyEasyFs Financials and MS Word. By performing the calculation of totals and control check totals. The ability to calculate percentages and show decimal places. Setting of formatting and the ability to merge table cells, swapping of trial balance numeric data signs for the report, that is depending on whether it's positive to negative or negative to positive. Setting of row visibility based on numeric data, the ability to input data or information, and the existence of an MyEasyFs statement library. This enables the use of statements stored in the library and the ability to store created statements to the library for future use on other financial statements. Let's have a look at some of the additional features available in the software. You can swap columns and change row order while maintaining all links to the financial information. Additional table formatting options. You have available the cell group or cell gap. This sets the distance between cells. You have font size. This sets the overall font size of the table. Cell left and right margin sets the margin of cells. Useful if no cell gap is set to have a break between lines on a cell. Row top and bottom margin sets distance between rows in a table. Line width sets the thickness of the line used in the statement. Setup of column widths to be used on the Word document. Chart data tick. This uses the statement information to produce a chart or graph which can be further formatted in MS Word while maintaining its links to the data in MyEasyFs Financials. You can set the setup of cells and row formats that can be used when creating a financial statement or a note to the financial statements. Setup of node numbers to set statement references in MyEasyFs and on the Word document, maintaining consistency and accuracy of node numbering and referencing. Also enables the preparation of a table of contents on the Word document. The ability to create 3 types of word fields as follows. You have the input field. These are common fields that are used many times on the statement. For example, the entity name and the year-end date. This further enables the statement to be quickly updated for subsequent financial periods. You have linked fields. These are fields that are linked to information on a statement in MyEasyFs. This enables specific data to be extracted and used on a Word document. And finally, you have the combined fields. This is a field that could consist of input fields and new inputs to create a combined field that can easily be used on the MyEasyFs statement or the Word document. Now let's have a look at how all this is performed in the software. Let's first open up a financial statements which I've set up to demonstrate how you go about preparing financial statements. I've opened up a financial statements and I've named it how to create financial statements proprietary limited, just for this demonstration. Now when it comes to preparing the statements, it's all handled in this button area. It's called prepare statements, so I'll click into it. Now this is the main form which you will use to create the statement. I'll first explain some of these buttons which are here so that you can understand how they have been grouped. This particular area creates a statement, the word field, you can create numbers, row formats, and you can also rename some of the groups to better suit the statement here. These two buttons are actually to view the statement which you are preparing on Word and see how it looks and how it appears on the Word document, so that you can finalize the formatting and get it to suit how you would like it to look in the final report. The row format shows you the formats for each row that has been prepared so that you can select it on your statement. This area is the primary area where all the creation of the statement happens. These are the buttons which enable each of the features that you'll need to prepare a statement. Before you can utilize any of these buttons, you would first open up a statement. Now I'm going to select the statement, and now these buttons become active. If you were to try and get into one of those buttons before you open up a statement, it will just say that you need a statement to be opened up first. So let's open up the statement. Now this is just a basic statement. As you can see, it's a summary level. I just keep this. I don't utilize this statement in financial statements. It's just a summary. The only reason I keep this statement there is so that I can have a quick overview of the final figures at the highest level. This enables me to check that it is in keeping with my understanding of what the financial figures should look like on a very high level, it's not being broken down into more detail. So that's pretty useful. It's just a statement I just maintain and which I prepare first, just as a double check, so that I know that the trial balances have been imported into the correct years and that it all reconciles before going further to do any further breakdowns or further classifications. Here is where you would, like I said, access the features needed to create this. You'd see also on this statement that it utilizes different colors. That's the color coding that represents back, it represents back to the type of feature that was used to create it. For example, these figures are totals which were created using this button, and these were actually linked to the trial balance, including the descriptions that linked back to the trial balance groups. which were created using this tab. Dynamic fields with this tab. The only one which you don't have a tab, which you only have an indication of what the color was, or you don't have a button, is this one, which is the input cells. All it tells you is that this cell was actually not linked to anything. You just input some data into that cell. So that's basically how you would go about creating this statement. And here where it says sign, what that indicates is this sign, changing of this sign will only impact amounts brought to the statement from the groups or from the trial balances. Okay, it only impacts the figures which are brought from the trial balance. It will not impact your totals, it will not impact anything else. And that's all we want it to impact. You only want it to impact the trial balance figures. So what it does is, when you change the sign, is if the figures were negative, generally when it's credits it's negative, it'll change them to positives. So this enables you to change how it is shown on the statement without actually impacting the figures of the trial balance. So it's for presentation purposes. Then here, the next column where it says visibility, this determines the visibility. This statement, everything has been set to visible and everything will appear on the Word document even if there was no information on it. Like here you'll have a couple of selection. You have data, data previous, data next, and hidden. If you were to set something to hidden, just set this one to hidden so that you can see it does not hide anything on the statement here, but it hides it on the Word document. Likewise, if you use any of these functions like data, for example, what it means is that under splits always, and I'll change maybe this to say data. So what this means is that if there are figures from A to the end of this A to Q, which is here, so if there are figures on that row, it will be visible. If there are figures on the row but they are all zeros, or if there is no figures on the row, it will be hidden on the Word document. So that enables you to hide the row if there is no data. This enables you to sort of trim your statements, or the program to trim the statements when you finally create the statements on the Word document. For example, you might have a note where you have, say, 10 items, but you utilized only maybe 8 groups, for example, 8 of those groups. So 2 of the groups will not have any data on it, so it will not show those 2 rows, but it will show the 8 rows that had data on it. Likewise, the data previous means it will look at the row above, and if there is figures above, then it will show this row, the row below. If there is no figures above, the row it's on will be hidden. Likewise, data next is if there is data below, it will show the row above. If there is no data in terms of numbers below which are greater than 0, it will not show the data. This is if you need to just show the line depending on something that is actually you can calculate on the next line rather than on the line itself. To be honest, I've never really had to use the data previous and data next. Normally the data is what I look at when doing that setting. So yeah, those features are there, but I've really never had to use it. But if there comes a reason where you need to use it, you know the feature is there. Now this column here is to format. So this sets how the row gets formatted. Now these are some codes which I've given it when I created the formats to better understand these ones. I'll just open the view of the row formats. You don't create the row formats here. This is just a view. The creation of the row formats are done here. So I'm just going to open that up. As you can see, I've set unit a code. You can filter it here. For example, if I say A, you can see it there. So the logic I've sort of followed here was A is for amounts. I used error for error handling. If there is an error in the total not reconciling with the group total, for example, where a row has not been added, it'll highlight the difference and it'll highlight it using this color on the Word document. So that's pretty handy, and I think very useful and must be used on all your statements. And I'll show you how you go about doing that, because that immediately highlights if you got an error, you've forgotten to include something that is needed for it to reconcile with the higher level group. That is handy when you do that, and I'll show you how that works. That also works based on data figures. So you put a formula to check the total against the group total, which it should reconcile to, and if it's greater than 0, then you have a problem, and which you need to look after or go back and check that, because it should have reconciled to 0. So I've used A for that, E for error for that. I've used H for headings. So these are referring to numbers. So the formatting here will be number formatting. Here it's text formatting, as you can see. So this is bold and it's centered. With the error, I've also used some color formatting. So you can see that the cells will be colored if there's an error. What else? So I got a header here which is just bold. Then I've created a header which is indented. So there have been certain areas that I had to indent it a bit, so it's indented by 1 centimeter in there. So I've done the indent and trailing indents to 1 centimeter. What you do is, once you create a format, you just keep repeatedly using it on all your statements, and only create another format if you really need something that's different from what you already have. Okay, so I've used H for that. I've done a special format for percentages, so that I know if it comes to percentages I must use that. Then I've got the lines here. Now that's for a subtotal, that's for another subtotal, but with an indent. That's another subtotal without, it's just the numbers, it's not having any lines. So as you can see, it's I've created quite a few formats. This number of formats has enabled me to prepare, I think, close to 40 statements, and that's all I needed. So I would keep the number of formats to what you really need. You just create what you need, just get rid of what you don't need, and it's pretty easy to create a format. I'll demonstrate that as we go through how you create a statement. So that's basically what's on here. You can also see here, these are the columns, and the column visibility tick here is where you need to tick the columns you want to appear on the Word document. So in this case, I just only needed up to column C to appear, so that's all will appear. If I were to tick the D, I'll have an additional column, but there's no use, I'm not using that column. So it's vital that you tick the columns you need. Normally when it's created, you'll need to tick these items when you create a new statement. It's normally unticked. The description column will appear always. That cannot be managed. That will always appear when you create a statement. Alright, so that's the only column that will appear on the Word document, irrespective of whether it's ticked or not ticked. What else is on here? Alright, so now the width here, as you can see there are different widths here, and also as you can see they are highlighted. This is highlighted in green where these are just white. The green highlights indicate that they are active and that they will be shown on the Word document. White means it will not be shown. Swap column features, if you need to, for example, maybe you need to move all these tables maybe one column towards the right, for example, you can actually swap it. Now just swap this one, for example, say now it's currently C, so if I swap C to maybe I'll move it to F, for example. Okay, as you can see it moves it. So what it effectively has done is it's reset all the formulas so that it all relates to the F column. So now if I need to bring it back to C, I just go and say bring it back to C. Okay, so what it does is it swaps the two columns. Alright, so that's handy if you need to, for example, you created a large statement and then you go, oh no, I should have actually added one more column. It's pretty easy, you just can move them one at a time towards the right, and you can just go ahead and then use that column. Here it indicates the total width of the statement. Now as you can see, even though there are different widths here, these widths are just will remain constant here on the statement here. This is the setting for the widths on the Word document. So when you create the Word document, that's the width, and as you can see I have set the width to be exactly 16 centimeters. Now when you look at a Word document under normal margins, it's 16. Okay, so that's sort of nicely sits in the middle of the page, and it's perfect size for that page. I try and maintain all my statements to a particular width. Now if it's a note, for example, I set it to something like, let me just get to a main statement, like PNL. Yeah, so it's 16 that I'm using for that, and when it comes to a note, I set it to 15. That's because I indent the note table by 1 centimeter because of the numbering. The numbering takes up about 1 centimeter, so I set it to about 15 centimeters, right? So how do you do this? Now if you see here, for example, let me just get back to that simple table I was looking at. There are other settings here now. Now these settings here, like for example cell gap, cell margins, here, so you have the left and right margins, you have the top and bottom margins. They impact the width of the table. It's not always easy to get the 16 in this area here. So but what you can do is, now this is where you go to create the statement. So for example, assume that this was say you set this to 8 centimeters. Alright, now you see here it'll tell you that that particular table is going to be 15.18 centimeters, but you want it to be 16. Now that's an odd number, because that's because of this formatting. Okay, we have a slight cell gap in there. Alright, so if you need it to be 16, rather than trying to calculate it and say how much you need to change this cell for it to become 16 centimeters for the table, what you can do is you put the 16 here and say, so that's your target of what you want it to become, and you say apply here. So when you hit apply, what it does is it looks at the widths and it'll adjust the description width. It'll only adjust it if it can achieve that. So for example, if you set it to say 2 centimeters, but then you have all these columns which are like greater than 2, it can't actually set that width, so then it will not even attempt to try and set it. Alright, so I've set it to 16 and I hit apply. It adjusts that width and brings it back to 16. So that way, as you can see, I have set them all to a particular formatting. Now 24 it's a landscape, which is it's a landscape table on Word document, and can go up to about 24.5. That's what I've set it, and that's for now on normal margins. Maybe even less than normal margins, maybe even thin margin. So best because the table was fairly large. I don't think you'll be able to fit more columns onto even a landscape page, even though you have it. The only time you'll probably be able to go up to Q is if you're printing on an A3 paper, because you can't put that many columns. It's not going to be very visible on that table. So this is, I think, was quite a stretch to get it to even K. So even though you do have more columns, if you're going to use more columns, you're looking at it printing it on an A3 page, but rather than an A4 page, which is the standard size for the financials. I think you might do up to Q if you're doing maybe something for management, in terms of like management reporting, for example, of your financial figures, but never for the actual annual financial statement. Some jurisdictions where you're actually reporting to a regulator stipulate that it has to be an A4 piece of paper. Alright, so just bear that in mind. What else? How do I have to describe? Let me just get to the main form, finish that off. Yep, so I've explained the widths, column widths. Yeah, I mean, some of these functions, like for example, I've used cell gap. So what that is a gap around the cell. So as I've used a gap around the cell, I've not used any of these margins, not necessary, because this also enables the break between the totals. I'll just generate this one so you can have a look at what it's going to look like on your Word document. Takes a few seconds to actually generate it out after doing all the calculations. So as you can see, this is the gap which I was referring to. It creates a gap between the cells, so therefore it looks pretty good on your statements, because I've seen a number of statements where it's just one straight line right across, and that always used to get me, because it's, from what we've sort of seen mathematical wise, you don't put a line right across. You want to have a little bit of a break. But a lot of individuals, when they do prepare it, I guess due to the software they're using, it'll be easy for them to incorporate a gap like this way. They tend to put one line across. It does not look too good in my view. If you are one of those people, you just get rid of the gap and you can have that straight line. But what also the gap does is, let me just show you this. As you can see, there's a very fine line around it. I think you can better view it if you were to actually maybe add a color to it. So if I were to, incidentally, you will not be coloring it on the Word document. If you need to add a color, you will be adding it using the program. The program offers far better selection of colors than this is offering. This gives you a better selection. Okay, so as you can see, when I just highlight it, it looks pretty good. So for example, if I were to highlight all of them and maybe give it a little bit of a color, yeah, so it looks fairly good if you were to want to put a table like this way. I personally don't put colors into a statement. That's how because that's for the annual financial statements. But maybe you want to put some for management reporting or some sort like that. As you can see, there's a little tab here, so that's a little bit of a format which has been set on the Word document, on the row formats. I like to indent it a little bit. It sort of helps you to identify the groups a little bit better. If you don't like it, you can just not put that tab and just have it all lined towards the left. this is the total format I use because it has the underlines. This is just a number or an amount format which I've used. This is the header format where it's bold and centered. So yeah, so that's some of the formatting. I mean, look, there is a hell of a lot of formatting you can do with the program. My only advice is that if you are going to use colors, be careful, utilize it only if your jurisdiction allows you to do and report in colors. I know that there are some jurisdictions that only allow like something like 3 colors maximum on annual financial statements that's getting lodged, and they also have strict rules as to what colors you can use on your financial statements that get lodged. And it does make sense. I mean, they have rules like you can't use colors that, if printed on black and white paper, cannot be read or is not legible, which makes sense. You know, you don't want to use colors that, you know, if it's printed on a different paper or without color, for example, you know, it doesn't look good, or you know, some printers don't handle color very well. So for example, if you have a statement and you're using maybe a dark yellow for the numbers, and you know, some of the printers don't handle yellow very well, and sometimes if you print yellow on a black and white printer, you would not see the figures. So yeah, so the jurisdictions of stipulate the type of colors. That's why most people, I think, don't use colors in the financials that they have to lodge. I'm just going to close that down. So yeah, so while color is shown here, this color has no resemblance to what gets printed. These colors, they're primarily just to show you how it's been linked. So these colors here are different to any color that appears on the statement that is set based on your formatting here. Alright, so and this is if you need to delete something. So you hit delete, it'll just delete the row. Now I'm just going to show you how you create a simple statement. I'm going to maybe create this part of the statement, for example. Show you how I went about creating that. Okay, so let's first create a statement here. So here's where you go to create a statement. So I say add a new line there. Okay, so it's added a new statement line. So I'm going to just call it you need to get a small code, so I'm going to call it demo, and I'm going to say P&L summary, P&L summary, and I'm just going to make that the first item. So I'm going to say 001. Okay, so as soon as you click out of it, it saves. Okay, so now you see it's sort of renumbered these as well, so it maintains its sort order. As you can see, it's sort of automatically just given me these formatting. Okay, so I mean, in this particular statement, I'm not using any of this formatting, so I'm just going to get rid of them. So get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Okay, so I am only using the gap in this instance. The gap's a bit too big, and I'm going to make that small as well. Okay, so as you can see, only one of the columns are active, and you say, no, okay, that's the weight. Well, that's not what I want. So now let's go into the creating section. So I close that. I'm going to just call up that statement. Alright, so as you can see, so it's blank. There's nothing here. So first thing you probably want to do is to add some lines. So I'm going to just add 10 lines. Okay, so that's the 10 lines I've just added, right? No formatting has been set. Visibility set to always. It's only this column that's getting visible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate these 4 columns because I'm going to need all of them. And okay, so I've done that. Okay, I've said this. The width is going to 18 centimeters. Okay, I'll leave it at 18 for now. What else? We got the line width. So that line width is generally alright if you're using font size 9. Maybe I'll use a slightly larger font size, or maybe the font size. We'll have a look at let's have a look first how this is without any data, just making all of the rows visible. let's have a look at how this looks like on a Word document. So there's nothing much to calculate, so it does it pretty quickly. Look at it there, you can't actually see the table, so but there it is. Alright, so that's a quick way actually to select an entire table list if you want to know. So it's coming right to the end. It's not ideal. I mean, we can resize this one. Okay, so I'll make it 16. Yeah, that's roughly where the end comes to. As you can see, 16 centimeters is a nice length for a portrait picture paper. Okay, so let's close that down. Alright, so now I'm just going to make it 16 so that it looks good. Set that to 16 and say apply. Yep, as you can 16, it's changed the width. Alright, okay, good. Now, okay, let's put some data. So I'm going to use a word field here, and I'm just going to use these fields and just sort of show you how it all works. Then after that we'll probably move to how you create some of these fields. The only field or the only item that you do create here and use at the same time, where you can create and use, is the dynamic titles. Okay, so I will first show you how I use these. We just saw how you can use the creating of 10 lines. Similarly, if you add 3, you can add 3 lines. You also can add a single row as well. So for example, if you need to add a single row, you can just add it by just pressing this. It just creates it above. Yes, and you can also, this is the row number, you can reorder it. I'll just show you that as well when we're going through and just looking at some stuff. Similar to like moving a column, you can just move a row up or down by just changing the number. Alright, so that's also handy, so you can just move it down. It just maintains all its links to the data as well when you do that move. Okay, so which is very useful. Okay, now first thing I need, I've sort of set this up in set in order so that you know what you would normally use when you're doing or creating a statement. So we first need some word fields. These are the consistent items. So what I need is I need to get the years. So if I say, I think I did say, what did I call them? They call them years. It's just year. Alright, so current year, prior year, and prior year one. Okay, so these are basically codes which I've given it. You can name it how you like it. I mean, this is helpful. How I normally handle it. Okay, so let's use this. I'm going to say 2015, 2014. So basically, you select the cell first where you want it to appear, and then hit this button for it to link. I need to have the dollar sign, so I'll just bring in the dollar sign as well. Alright, that's good. Now I brought them in. Alright, so I don't think I need this anymore. So close that. Alright, what else do I need here? So for example, now I'm going to bring stuff from the trial balance groups. I'll be stopping the video here and moving into part 2, which is the continuation of this video.